Hey guys! So I've just managed to grab some Rennies so that I can hopefully sit and film this for you. It is snowing outside, it's very beautiful, kind of Christmassy. We've had a lovely weekend away and I have decided that I'm going to actually just film this now for you whilst there is still light and Ingmar is out. So today is my 2 years, I know, 2 years living in Iceland. Kind of week anniversary because I can't quite remember when I actually got here. I could just look it up, but I've not done that. But anyway, I've been in Iceland for 2 years now. It's still quite crazy to me that I actually live in Iceland. Of all countries in the world, Iceland. I had to meet someone from Iceland. But anyway, I am here and it is beautiful, and I am joining you with Bump today as well. Again, another crazy thing that's happened, so yes. Let's get into this because I think that baby brain will take over and I'll just ramble, and this could potentially be quite a long video. So for my 2-year anniversary video, I decided I would do a Q&A video. So I posted on Instagram the other week and asked you guys a ton of questions, or asked you guys for questions. That's what I'm trying to say. This could be interesting. And you basically sent me them, so I am gonna get straight into answering them because I'm just going off on tangents. So the first couple of questions are quite basic in kind of people asking about Iceland. Maybe they're just new followers or subscribers, so I'm just gonna rattle through those answers quickly. The first one is, do people live in Iceland? Now, this I wanted to include because kind of funny. When I first met Ingmar, it was one of the first things that I said to him. When I said, where are you from? And he said, Iceland. I responded straight away with, nobody lives there, which was incredibly naive of me. And well, it was just honest because I'd never really thought about Iceland before and had never met anyone from Iceland. And yeah, I never really thought about people living there, never mind me living here. So there we go. Yes, people live here. The next question. How many people are there in Iceland? So currently there are, I think it's like 330,000 in the whole of Iceland, which is mad because it is actually quite a big country, but it's a relatively small population. The next one is, how large is Iceland? So yeah, basically I was just saying it is a large country, a large landmass, but a lot of it is very inhospitable, and you really wouldn't want to live in a lot of the parts of Iceland here with threat of crazy storms or road closures, so you wouldn't be able to get many places. There's really only 2 cities, so finding jobs and employment, or even just, you know, things like going to a supermarket would become quite difficult. So yeah. Is Iceland in Europe? Yes, it is. It's not part of, now this gets technical and I don't know why I'm answering this really, because what do I know? Iceland is in Europe. It is not part of the European Union, but it is counted as Europe. So I think technically it's like the European Fair Trade Association, or associated, or whatever the terminology is. It is part of the Schengen visa, so if that helps with your answer, maybe, I don't know. Is there any changes that I've noticed in the trend in Icelandic culture since I've arrived? Which is a really interesting question, because I wouldn't say like trends or kind of culture. It's quite difficult to notice those things when you don't really know the culture, you don't really know the trends anyway. But the biggest thing that is changing still, and has been changing massively in the last 2 years, is tourism. Tourism is huge in Iceland. A lot of places that you go, you see adverts for Iceland. I flew last year, yeah it was last year, all the way to India. Arrived in Bangalore airport, came outside and there was a big advertisement for the Northern Lights. Hilarious that you can go that far and then see an advert for Iceland. So it's reported that in 2015 there were 1.3 million visitors. In 2016 it went up to 1.8, and last year it was 2 million, which I actually thought it was more than that, but when you think about the population in Iceland, 2 million visitors is huge. And also Iceland is not really necessarily prepared for great big tourism yet. They're building a lot of hotels, but they're not necessarily looking after kind of road maintenance and just the upkeep and security of their natural sites and the wonders that everyone comes here to see. It is a shame because places like the Golden Circle, where a lot of people go to, that's going to be heavily visited, and you know, once it's damaged, there's not really any going back from it. It is quite hard to see, especially when you work in tourism nowadays, as I do, and we're kind of just adding to that. I do wish that we could kind of, if there was something in place that companies had to also put back into the land and look after and preserve these wonders. So that's my little bit. Downtown in Reykjavik, you definitely notice the trend in shops changing. We used to have a few more bookshops. There were some really old kind of boutique shops. There was also a big craft shop, so you could buy all of your stationery and everything downtown. It's now moved right out of town into a kind of industrial area, and you just see jumper shops and what we refer to as puffin shops. Lots of touristy shops, but you don't really hear anything. It's not like a bitter topic, so obviously there's a lot of bonuses to tourism, so we won't dwell on that too much. So the next question is quite a popular one. A lot of people were asking about football, and especially because, now I'll probably get this wrong, is it the European Cup that's coming up in Russia? This is embarrassing. But a lot of people were asking what or how you say "come on Iceland" in Icelandic, because obviously there are a few more supporters of the Icelandic team, especially after the last European Cup when they beat England. So no hard feelings, but it was very entertaining to watch, especially as a Scots person. But anyway, we'll move on. So the answer is Afram Iceland. So that is the chant. It's a Viking chant, and I think the Viking clap goes with it as well. Can't remember if you do it at the same time. I don't think you do. This is probably what Ingmar should be here talking to you about. Next one is the average temperature in Iceland. So August is the warmest month in Iceland, although it is not very warm. The average temperature, I think it goes up to maybe 15 degrees is the warmest. But because it's an island, it doesn't get too cold. So this weekend it was -9 degrees in parts, but usually an average. The coldest month is January, maybe averages out about 1 degree, around 0. It's not too cold. The wind in Iceland is just so crazy. It makes you feel colder than it actually is. So following on from that, someone's asked, how do I cope with the cold? I have a whole wardrobe full of layers and thermals and lots of amazing knitwear. I have an Icelandic jumper now, amazing merino wool thermals, and an absolute ton of hat, scarves and gloves. I have a pair of snow boots. I don't wear them too often actually. They are a little bit more on the extreme side, but I live in hiking boots throughout the winter. And obviously in the summer 15 degrees. It's just kind of a normal temperature, isn't it? Okay, the next question is one that I knew I would get, but I kind of dreaded. How is your Icelandic language skills coming on? Now, I think I have a few phrases down. I have everything I need to say at work pretty much sorted, but it definitely doesn't mean that I can speak Icelandic. I have stopped doing the course, which is really bad, but I just wasn't getting any further than the beginner's level. I didn't feel confident at all. My pronunciation is dreadful. No one can understand me. I can understand a fair amount. I try to pronounce as much as I can and retain it and not get confused between languages as well, because there's a few languages gurgling around up in this crazy baby brain head of mine. But yes, the main one is Ég tala ekki íslensku, which means I don't speak Icelandic. The next question is one that I'm not even going to pretend to answer. So what type of government does Iceland have? And I'm just gonna get Ingmar to explain. some of that too. I think it's a coalition government. It did change this summer and last summer. Ingmar gets to vote in that, but I think it's because I'm not a citizen I don't get a vote. I am a resident here, but I don't get a vote for any of the elections. But yes, I'll get him to fill you in on that. Okay, the next question is, do you feel less like a foreigner and more like a local now? To be honest, I don't think I'll ever really feel like a local here. The language is one major aspect of that, but I think that you need to have grown up here. So if anyone is watching who's half Icelandic, it might be quite interesting to find out how you feel about this. But I feel kind of like if you were born here, then it would be very, very different, because it's kind of like a small society where a lot of people know each other. It doesn't mean to say that everyone knows each other, it's not that small. And this might not be a typical thing from Icelandic people, but it is from my experience. Most people have their circle of friends from when they were growing up, and then when they move to Reykjavik, as most people do, they don't really grow their circle of friends a huge amount. So there's maybe a couple of people from work added in. I tend to hang out with, I'm not really sure actually, it is probably more on the foreigners front, which doesn't help either. And again, that's probably a language thing. It is hard to, I found it really hard to make friends here who are Icelandic, because I didn't grow up here. I'm not from here, so I don't necessarily have the same kind of understanding of their childhood or upbringing or things in common, and it is very difficult. I don't want to be offending anyone, that's what I'm trying to say. I do find it really isolating here and very, very lonely. It is hard to make friends. It's very hard to make friends here, and I do not find it hard to make friends anywhere. I've always, wherever I've gone, whether it's in the UK, Japan, India, whatever, I've made a great circle of friends very quickly, and that has just not happened here. As much as I've tried different groups, different social activities, different sports, it is really, really hard. And so I might just leave it at that. But I definitely don't feel like a local, and I think it would be quite difficult to get to that point. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to another question. This is quite a strange one. What's the current time in Iceland? So at the moment, I think it's like 7 o'clock at night. It is GMT, so Greenwich Mean Time. We're on the same time zone as back home in Scotland, in the UK. We don't, however, do daylight saving, so that's the only difference here, really. Do I prefer summer or winter? I would definitely say winter. I love the snow. I am not over it yet. I'm not bored of it yet. I don't have to dig the car out though. But this weekend has been an absolute dream of crazy snow. And it's just been so beautiful. But I love February, March, when the snow is still there. It is still kind of wintry, but we have enough daylight to actually enjoy it, because in the deep midwinter, when it is 4 hours of daylight through the day, it is really hard, and that the struggle is real to get out of bed. I'm telling you, it was hard in Scotland, but this is another level. But on the flip side of that, in summer, I feel like it's slow torture, because it is just 24 hours of daylight, and you cannot sleep because your body clock is just absolutely screwed. So yeah, definitely winter. The next one is one I get on, I'd say, a daily basis. There is some very strange rumour going around that the Icelandic government will give money to foreigners if they come to Iceland and marry an Icelandic female. So I do regularly get some marriage proposals and get asked if I will marry someone, which is interesting because A, I'm not Icelandic, B, I'm already married and not looking for another husband. I need a visa, can you help me? Now, I do get this on a regular basis, and there's absolutely nothing I can do to help anyone who needs a visa. I can't sign something for you, I can't give you my address, I can't help you get a visa, and there's nothing I can really do. I am nobody in this country who can help with that, so I'm really sorry. Okay, moving on to where's my favourite place to stay in Iceland. It's quite a common thing when you live in a country. You don't typically go and visit too many places in it, so we don't typically stay many places. I've stayed in the Bubble Hotel, which was amazing. Definitely recommend that. Summer cabins are pretty much the only thing I think we've ever stayed in. We hired one for my family when it was my brother's 40th birthday. We've also hired a couple of summer cabins through Ingmar's work, and we've also used the family summer cabin, which was amazing. And then the more obvious one, where are your favourite places to visit in Iceland? So I made a kind of Iceland bucket list on my blog, which I will link also in the description box below. So make sure you check out everything that's on that. So there's the obvious things like the Golden Circle, everything on it, and then the south coast, right the way up to Jökulsárlón, the Glacier Lagoon, Snæfellsnes as well, because it's beautiful, everything on it is amazing. The obvious pools like the Blue Lagoon, Secret Lagoon is definitely one to have on there. Seljavatnlög is definitely my favourite pool, but also I really enjoyed doing the hike up to Reykjadalur, the hot river, so that's one to put on your lists as well. And so that brings us to the last question, which is what are the best tours in Iceland? Which obviously, as someone who lives here, I don't really go on many tours. When I first visited, I booked myself with Arctic Adventures and I went on the glacier hike. So there's a blog post on that. I'll also link that in the description bar below. But it was amazing. Hiking on a glacier was just out of this world. I did some abseiling and do you just call it climbing? Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Yeah, but it was an amazing experience. As I said before, the Bubble Hotel, which comes with this Golden Circle tour, and the Secret Lagoon is really cool. And as everyone knows, Iceland is famous for the Northern Lights, so definitely do a Northern Lights hunt. I think baby brain is just taken over right now and I'm trying to string words together, so I'm sorry if this was a bit rambly or not really that helpful, but hopefully it was entertaining for you. I will link a blog post on this down below, so if you need any links or anything, or just want to see other videos and pictures, then they'll all be in that. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, and I will see you for the next video, whenever that's going to be. Okay,